From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is U.S. Farm Report.
Welcome to U.S. Farm Report. This weekend, well, row after row of iron on display. Louisville flooded with farmers. They can only mean one thing. It's the National Farm Machinery Show week, and here's what's in store over the next 60 minutes. Crop prices just keep creeping lower.
It's really bearish. The USDA painted a very negative picture of the future in that report.
While interest rates climb higher. The combination is creating nervousness across farm country, but isn't spilling over into the ag equipment market just yet.
On the dealer lot, are the number of new planters, new combines starting to visually, they've got 8 of them sitting there now when the last 3 years they had 0.
Advocacy with a heavy dose of tenacity. How the weight of his ancestors' sacrifices fuel his farming legacy today. Plus, what's Valentine's Day without chocolate? The story behind the beloved Heath Bar. That's this weekend on U.S. Farm Report.
U.S. Farm Report, presented by Pioneer. What's next happens when blood, sweat, and tears meet rain, wind, and sun. Pioneer. What's next happens here.
Now for the news. Many producers breathing a sigh of relief on this news. EPA issuing an existing stocks order for dicamba products that were previously registered for over-the-top use. Now, you'll remember earlier this month, an Arizona court vacated the approval of 3 products used over the top of dicamba-resistant cotton and soybeans in 34 states. The court saying EPA did not follow procedures and failed to assess risks and costs for non-users of dicamba. Now the EPA order authorizes limited sale and distribution of existing stocks that are already in possession of people other than the registrant. This applies to stocks of previously registered pesticide products Ingenia, Tavium, and XtendiMax that are currently in the U.S. packaged, labeled, and released for shipment prior to February 6th. The American Soybean Association and the American Farm Bureau Federation applauding EPA's decision. Well, we also got our first look this week on USDA spring planting projections at the 100th Annual Ag Outlook Forum. The agency forecasting that farmers will plant 91 million acres of corn. That's down more than 3.5 million from last year and less than the trade had projected. The projections for 87.5 million acres of soybeans this year, which is up nearly 4 million acres from last year, and 47 million acres of wheat, down 2.6 million from last year. Combined, they're expecting more than 225.5 million acres, a drop of about 1% on expectations of lower prices and a return to a more typical level of prevent plant acres.
You're talking about maybe that prices support soybeans a little bit more than corn, so maybe we move a little bit of area back into soybeans. That sorghum area is largely unchanged. Wheat, after responding to the global demand for wheat because of action in the Black Sea, farmers saying, okay, we'll move out of wheat, we responded. Cotton being perhaps one of the areas where we see a little bit of area growth, and certainly if weather is normal, some big rebounds in production.
We're going to take a deeper dive into the numbers coming up in our roundtable discussion. Well, it was a big week for numbers at USDA. The agency also releasing all-new, all-encompassing look at America's farms and ranches. That's the 2022 Census of Agriculture. The census representing a count of U.S. farms and ranches and the people who operate them, something the agency only does once every 5 years. The numbers and statistics important for setting policy and priorities for USDA. So here are some highlights so far from the 757-page report. Let's start with the age of the average farm producer. In 2017, it was 57.5. It has increased now at 58.1. And how many farms are there in the U.S.? Well, according to the census, there are just over 1.9 million farms, a drop of almost 7% from the last census. However, the average farm size in acres has grown from 441 in 2017 to 465 in 2022, an increase of 5%. Texas is the top state for having the highest number of farms by county, followed by Missouri, Iowa, Ohio, and Illinois.
This survey, in addition to all the amazing work and data that it contains, is a wake-up call. This survey is essentially telling us, asking the critical question of whether as a country, are we okay with losing that many farms? Are we okay with losing that much farmland? Or is there a better way?
Looking at farm production expenses, we're talking about feed, labor, fertilizer, cash rents, seeds, and chemicals. From 2017 to 2022, they have grown from $326 billion to $424 billion. That represents an increase of $98 billion, or almost 30%, while per farm average net farm income has grown from more than $43,000 in 2017 to now almost $80,000 as of 2022, an 85% jump. Well, just a few years ago, the biggest source of income for many farmers was government payments. But USDA says that will not be the case this year. In 2020, direct government payments totaled $45.5 billion, but they dropped to $15.5 billion in 2022. Last year, they were down to $12 billion, and this year they're expected to dip again by about $2 billion to just over $10 billion, or a 16% drop from last year.
Direct government payments will contract again in 2024, and that gives you an overall kind of direct government payment intervention total there of below the long run average.
Experts say that's mostly due to lower supplemental and ad hoc disaster aid. That's it for the news. Well, parts of the Mid-South saw snow earlier this week, but then temps shot in the 60s later this week. But now colder air is on the way. We will have a check of your weather coming up next.